It's easy to think of competition and conflict as inherently negative, but that's not always the case. Think about the drive to excel in sports or the debates that help us refine our ideas. Competition and conflict can be positive forces when managed correctly. However, as we'll discuss, they can also lead to destructive outcomes if left unchecked. So that brings us to our first topic of competition. Any situation where success depends on outperforming others. And that seems simple enough, right? But the scene in this image here reminds us that competition is rarely simple as we'd like to make it. We often think of competition in terms of playful games, like the ones you might play at a picnic or a friendly board game night. And those are the lighthearted moments, the ones that build camaraderie and spark laughter. We also think of healthy competition in sports, academics, or creative pursuits. And that kind pushes us to improve and achieve our best. But this scene from the Squid Games represents another side of competition. It's high stakes, life or death scenarios that we hopefully never encounter. It's a stark reminder that competition can turn toxic, even deadly. And this visual forces us to confront the question, what are the limits of competition? Where do we draw the line? It's a powerful and disturbing example of the potential consequences when the drive to win overrides everything else. So let's better understand competition. What sets competition apart from other social dynamics like simple challenges? Well, it's that competition, the perceived goal is structured so that it can only be achieved by one person or one group. And competition isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. It manifests in various forms. We see it in economic competition, where businesses vie for market share, in academic competition, where students strive for the best grades, and even in interpersonal rivalry, like when individuals compete for a promotion or someone's attention. Think about the times you've experienced competition in your own life. Maybe it was trying to get a job or competing in a sport. But competition is a fundamental aspect of social life. It can be a powerful motivator, driving individuals and groups to achieve great things. However, it's crucial to acknowledge that competition also carries the potential for negative consequences. It can lead to conflict, hostility, and even unethical behaviors like cheating. So context is key, and the type of competition we're involved in significantly shapes our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Now, one important distinction is between types of competition. First, we have interpersonal competition, and this is competition within the individual where someone competes against themselves. This could involve psychological aspects like dealing with cognitive dissonance or behavioral measures such as trying to improve on a past performance, like aiming for a higher score or a faster time. However, when most of us hear the word competition, we're thinking about interpersonal competition. That is competition between individuals or groups. An individual competition is when two or more individuals directly compete. So think of like athletes racing against each other. And then there's intergroup competition, which is when entire groups compete against each other. Examples include things like basketball teams competing for a championship or companies fiercely competing for a market share. And we've discussed competition as a fundamental aspect of social life, but it's important to recognize that competition isn't inherently good or bad, as it has both benefits and drawbacks. For example, individual competition can sometimes lead to feelings of anxiety and self-doubt, while conversely, team competition can promote feelings of camaraderie and cooperation. Ultimately, the outcomes we experience are largely associated with whether the competition is positive. And so a positive competition refers to a healthy rivalry that motivates individuals or groups to improve, achieve, and excel. And this type of competition can foster growth and innovation. Think of it like a playful scene such as the one depicted here, where we will see a brief wrestling match between Simba and Nala.
All right, it worked. We lost him. I am a genius. Hey, genius, it was my idea. Yeah, but I pulled it off. With me? Oh, yeah? Huh. Pinger, hey, let me up. Pinger again.
Now, in this context, it's about growth and play and development. But competition can also be negative. And so negative competition involves harmful rivalry that undermines individual or group well-being, relationships, and overall success. It can lead to animosity and unhealthy pressure. And obviously, we see examples of this not only in fictional scenarios like the Hunger Games and Squid Games, but also in films like the 2016 film Nerve. In this film, there's an incredibly harmful, dangerous, and toxic high-stakes truth or dare situation.
Come on, let's go.
I guess you don't tell me the truth. Because you never told me about how insecure I am, or about how I just have a revolving door of guys all the time. You never tell me that, but you've told everyone that tonight. So please, V, go right ahead and show us all what a 5-year little spark plug you've become since lunch.
Let's go.
Shots fired.
Don't walk away from me, V. Wake up. This is a game. Do you really think that someone like him is actually gonna be with you when this is all
Hey,
done?
you don't know me.
Oh, I'm sorry. You really like her now?
Yeah, I do.
All right, come on, Sid. You're just drunk.
Tommy, it is time to get over her. Clearly she has traded up.
Why do you have to be such a bitch?
Look at that. Little V finally speaking her mind. Come on, unburden yourself.
You know why we're best friends? I do whatever you want all the time.
No, V, we're friends because I'm fun and you're boring. The only fun thing about you is your brother. What is it you think? That playing Nerve is just gonna magically make you a different person? That's not how life works. You'll never be a player.
Right. I know how much you love living in the moment, Sid. Well, remember this moment. Because you're one of those girls who peaks in high school. And you wake up one day still living in Staten Island, still screwing the same guys, wondering what the hell happened to your life. If you want to know where I am from now on, sign up and watch me.
What are you doing? Hey, V, you don't need to do this. Look at me, come on, let's just go. Let's fail, all right? What do you have to prove? Come on, please, go.
You gotta be pleased. You got it, please.
Obviously, this brief clip illustrates how competition can devolve into something that is obviously very dangerous and destructive. But it's also important to understand that competition, though not always, can frequently breed into conflict. We've seen a bit of conflict in that last scene. But conflict arises when there is a perceived incompatibility of goals or interests between individuals and groups. And this perception of incompatibility is key, as it's not just about actual differences, but also about what people believe to be different. This perceived incompatibility can then lead to tension, hostility, and in the most severe cases, violence. And so a powerful example of this can be seen in Captain America: Civil War. In that particular film, the Avengers are driven into an outright civil war. divided into two opposing factions due to fundamental ideologies clashing in their worldviews regarding the Sokovia Accords. Team Cap, led by Captain America, strongly believed in personal freedom and autonomy, and they resisted the Sokovia Accords. On the other hand, Team Iron Man, led by Tony Stark, supported the Accords, driven by a sense of responsibility for the destruction that the Avengers had caused. And so the Sokovia Accords themselves require enhanced individuals like the Avengers to register, disclose their identities, and operate under strict government oversight. All in all, an attempt to minimize civilian casualties. And this conflict illustrates how differing values and beliefs about control and responsibility can escalate into significant conflict, even among those who were once allies. Granted, not all conflicts lead to civil wars, fictionally or otherwise, but the desire to outperform others can escalate into conflictual situations. Though impact is relative, in contexts such as historical periods, societies, and technological advancements can impact the intensity of conflict, there are always varying levels of effect. So low-intensity conflicts involve minor disagreements or differences of opinion. They typically cause minimal discomfort and can be resolved through communication or compromise. Miscommunication and conversation leading to minor tension or hurt feelings between friends, coworkers, or family members. Debates and discussions between individuals or smaller groups. Respectful yet contrasting about ideas, solutions, or plans, such as brainstorming sessions in the workplace. Can also be friction between individuals due to different work style or communication approaches that might lead to annoyance or hindered collaboration, but not outright hostility. And of course, disagreements between people like neighbors about things like property boundaries, noise levels, or differing aesthetic choices that impact both parties' living space. Then there's medium or moderate intensity conflicts, and these escalate beyond minor disagreements. They may involve stronger emotions, differing values, or competing interests. Resolution requires more effort and understanding. So this could be escalated disputes between coworkers or team members that might involve power struggles, unfair treatment, or competition for resources, potentially affecting team dynamics and productivity. Perhaps organized demonstrations or rallies against perceived injustices or demanding systematic changes. And these can range from peaceful marches to more disruptive actions like civil disobedience. There's also lingering animosity or distrust between larger social groups based on identity, culture, or historical events, potentially leading to prejudice and discrimination. And even armed disputes between smaller factions or groups within a community or region, often driven by resource scarcity, power struggle, or ideological differences. And then there's, of course, high-intensity conflicts, and these are intense, emotionally charged, and often deeply entrenched. They significantly impact relationships, well-being, and functioning. Resolution may require mediation or professional intervention. And though not large-scale, divorce proceedings and custody battles can cause personal distress with long-lasting emotional consequences for all involved. Regional conflicts, like armed conflicts involving several neighboring nations, often fueled by geopolitical tensions, border disputes, or competition for resources in a specific area. Revolutions are also another. Major societal upheaval aimed to overturn established systems of power and governance. And these can involve widespread things like protests, strikes, and sometimes even violence, as seen in historical events like the French Revolution or even more recent uprisings. And then wars are also part of high-intensity conflict. And this can include things like civil wars, internal, large-scale armed conflict between organized groups within a nation. They're often divided along ideological lines, geographical control, or access to resources. And global wars, which are the most devastating type of conflict, involving multiple powerful nations across continents. So driven by a wide range of factors, including ideology, Resource hunger and shifting global power dynamics, they obviously have catastrophic consequences, such as the past world wars, the Afghan war, and the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, conflict permeates our lives from minor disagreements to full-blown social uprisings, as we've discussed. Therefore, understanding the causes and consequences of conflict is crucial for managing and resolving such disputes effectively. Motivating factors of gains and losses can significantly drive individuals or groups to engage in conflict. The desire to gain is a powerful motivator, and we often compete for various resources, both tangible and intangible, fueled by the desire to gain things like social status, power, attractiveness, self-esteem, or a sense of belonging. For example, when essential resources are scarce, individuals and groups may compete fiercely for them. And this competition can easily escalate into conflict, such as when two countries compete over access to vital water resources. And in the digital age, social media provides a prime example of this gain competition. The pursuit of likes, followers, retweets, and reactions has unfortunately exacerbated social and political divisions. The desire to gain social status and recognition on social media platforms can contribute to conflict by fostering a competitive environment, amplifying existing divisions, and incentivizing behaviors that prioritize attention-grabbing content over accuracy and constructive dialogue. So take a few minutes and watch this video shared here that covers how social media actually does take part in division. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have aversion to loss. And it's a fundamental aspect of human psychology that we naturally dislike giving up things that we value. From psychobiological perspective, loss aversion is even considered an evolutionary trait that aided in early human survival and the continuation of their genes. Research even suggests that some genetic variations make people less loss aversive than others. And this aversion applies to a wide range of things from seemingly insignificant matters, like someone taking our quote unquote chosen seat in a classroom, to much more significant items such as food, money, or important possessions. And this trait is particularly salient because the emotional impact or pain associated with the loss tends to be stronger and more influential than the pleasure or satisfaction of an equivalent gain. And finally, the status quo bias plays a role as well. And this refers to our tendency to prefer things as they are and to resist change favoring the maintenance of the current state of affairs. People often resist change because it can feel less risky and more comfortable. Therefore, this bias can trigger conflict, especially when we perceive that a change might result in losing something that we currently value. Mixed motives also significantly contribute to conflict. The dual concern model is a valuable tool in social psychology that helps us understand how individual attitudes and motivations influence our approach to conflict. This model posits that our conflict resolution strategies are heavily influenced by the degree to which we prioritize two key factors. One is the concern for self, and this focuses on the extent to which an individual prioritizes their own outcomes, goals, and needs in a conflict situation. Individuals with a high concern for self often adopt a contending approach to conflict. They tend to be competitive, assertive, and may prioritize their own success, even if it comes at the expense of others involved. And then there's concern for others. And this emphasizes the extent to which an individual prioritizes achieving positive outcomes for all parties involved in the conflict. Individuals with a high concern for others may exhibit a yielding approach where they prioritize the needs and concerns of others, sometimes at the expense of their own needs. Alternatively, they might pursue a problem-solving approach, seeking solutions that aim to benefit everyone involved. And while various approaches exist, the problem-solving approach is often considered the most optimal. In this approach, individuals demonstrate a balanced focus on both themselves and others, seeking collaborative solutions and mutually beneficial outcomes for everyone involved in the conflict. The dual concern model gives rise to several main conflict navigation styles. One happens to be contending, as you see in the upper left-hand corner of the figure. This style is characterized by individuals prioritizing self-concern. They often use competition, dominance, and assertive tactics to achieve their goals, potentially disregarding or minimizing the needs and perspectives of the others around them. And the underlying motivation is often to win at all costs. Then there's yielding, as you see in the bottom right corner. And in contrast, yielding occurs when individuals prioritize other concern. They're often cooperative and accommodating, readily deferring to the needs and perspectives of others. And this might be done so where they potentially neglect their own needs and concerns. The motivation here is often to lose or concede in order to maintain peace or harmony. And then there's problem solving, as you see on the top right. So problem solving, also known as collaboration, is the style that represents a balanced concern for both self and other. Individuals employing this style of communication and teamwork as far as seeking collaborative solutions do so with an approach to hopefully win-win. And the outcomes are done through open communication, active listening, creative thinking, and a willingness to compromise. This approach is generally considered the most desirable for effective conflict resolution. But it's important to remember that conflict is a natural and inevitable part of social life. Understanding various causes, including the motivational factors, is essential so that we can develop effective strategies for managing and resolving it constructively. So in section 2, we've explored the intertwined concepts of competition and conflict. We discussed that competition is any situation where success depends on outperforming others. We examine how it can manifest as interpersonal competition, where individuals compete against themselves, or interpersonal competition, which individual competition between people, or intergroup competition, where it's between groups. We also discussed that competition has a dual nature, presenting both positive and negative impacts. We noted that positive competition can foster healthy rivalry and drive individuals or groups to improve and excel. Conversely, negative competition involves harmful rivalry that can undermine well-being in relationships. We then transition into the concept of conflict, defining it as behaviors that occur when beliefs and actions of others are resisted. We categorize conflict into varying levels of intensity, and we look at low-level conflicts that look like minor disagreements or misunderstanding, moving on through medium or moderate conflicts, such as those with stronger emotions and competing interests, and finally talked about high-intensity conflicts that are marked by intense emotional charge and deeply entrenched disputes. And finally, we address causes and consequences of conflict by exploring the motivating factors that drive individuals or groups to engage in conflict. These include the desire to gain various resources, such as social status and power, and the aversion to loss, including status quo bias, which is our tendency to resist change. We also discussed the dual concern model, which is a key concept for social psychology, which helps explain how individuals' concerns for themselves and others influence their conflict resolution approaches. And this model highlights 3 main conflict navigation styles: contending, yielding, and problem solving. Be sure to tune into section 3 as we move on into our discussion and look more at different concepts such as focusing on cooperation as we move forward. But before that, we will look at how we understand competition and conflict through various social dilemmas.